What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to episode 19 of my East Coast Fitness podcast. And for those who have tuned into the podcast previously, you might recognize the guest that I have on today. It's Ty Minholz. He was on for the other podcast that we did. I think it was maybe 3 podcasts ago. It was actually on his Natural Bodybuilding Worth It, where we just kind of discussed our thoughts on natural bodybuilding, kind of like his approach to it, my approach. So if you guys want to check that out, you can definitely check that out. I actually created a playlist on my channel, so you can definitely access it through there. And I will try to link it above. It's kind of funny sometimes finding the videos to link them, but if I can find it, you can actually access it above. This is another podcast. I was excited to get you back just because a lot has changed since the first podcast. I'm pretty sure everybody didn't expect the severity of kind of what happened with the whole COVID. But I think from the podcast, I think we were it was on the radar because we were kind of talking about it a little bit. We were just talking about like what could happen. So now that everything's kind of like, I guess you could say played out, or everything kind of like transpired, we're just kind of discuss like our thoughts on like pre-COVID, like what happened during COVID for both of us. We're going to be doing some answering some common questions, just going over some common training nutrition topics. Just for those who actually, like, maybe your gyms are still not open, maybe you're returning back to the gym and you kind of want to look to kind of like optimize your results, or like how you should approach your training and your nutrition, and maybe you just completely got off of the bandwagon altogether. And I know that there's probably tons of people that are on that boat that may have not trained, or there's beginners that are kind of looking to go back to the gym. We got a bunch of different cool topics planned for today. So for those who are new to the channel, or maybe new to the podcast, who are not familiar with you, if you could just introduce yourself to some of the new listeners.
Absolutely, Mark. Guys, it's good to be back. My name is Ty Minholz, and I reside in Ontario, in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario here. And it's good to be back. I can't wait to kick off another podcast with you guys.
So we're both repping the Canada. So I've got the Canada shirt on. So I actually bought this during Canada Day. So I was actually happy enough that I didn't return it the day after. So I'm supporting it again. So in terms of the gyms closing, what gym do you currently go to up in Waterloo? Like, what gym is it that you go to?
Well, I used to go to 2 gyms, actually, mainly just to fit around my night schedule for nursing, just whatever was open. But I train mainly at Crunch Kitchener and Crunch Waterloo. And I would suddenly go to Good Life depending on holidays and whatnot, and what my schedule was falling on those days. So those 2 gyms mainly where I used to work out. So, yeah.
So before we actually dive into some of the topics, so you actually just brought that up, and that's interesting, because I want to kind of talk about like the difference between like Good Life and the difference between like Crunch. I guess it's like, which one do you prefer? And I guess in terms of like choosing the gym, this is off topic in terms of like the podcast itself, but it just kind of brought to my attention that like I think it'd be kind of a cool topic, because I kind of got my thoughts on that as well. In terms of Good Life, like how does Good Life compare to Crunch, and kind of like which one do you prefer?
Well, I'm very flexible, and it just depends like on what I'm training, or even not what I'm training. I just kind of go and revise my training program based on what gym I'm going to, because I know Crunch Kitchener and Crunch Waterloo obviously has a lot more weights but more so machines than Good Life. But I chose Good Life as well because mainly for the holidays, like, because I do nursing too, right? So I'm working holidays anyway. So mainly Good Life here in Kitchener is open till 10 p.m. and I can get a workout in, whereas Crunch is only open till about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So the hours are definitely a lot different. So Good Life was always there as an option. But for me, I'm a hardcore trainer. I love training hardcore and high intensity. So Crunch Kitchener with their old school machines, and also Crunch Waterloo because it's way more open space. A little bit less machines, but a lot more weights and more cardio. It kind of just depends on what you're wanting to do that day. But those 3 were always open for me.
The reason why I ask is because like I used to train at a local gym. It was like Platinum. It's called Platinum Fitness. They're basically just like a locally owned gym that's in like Cape Breton. And honestly, like I've trained at Platinum for most of like my serious training, I guess you would say. But then when I moved up to Truro, which I'm currently living in now, we actually have a Good Life or whatever. So I joined Good Life, and I just noticed that like I find like the atmosphere makes a huge difference. Like I find like Good Life, it's like you're almost just like another number. And for some people, like that works good, like especially if you have like a dual membership, like maybe you go to Crunch and like you like the atmosphere, you like the people there, you kind of connect with everybody, but maybe your schedule doesn't always match up to their hours. So it's always good to be able to have that Good Life flexibility to be like, it's not necessarily like you don't care about the people at Good Life, but I just find that a lot of people at Good Life are just like literally focused on one thing, and that's like to go and work out, and socializing is like, I just find that like it's two completely different atmospheres. Whereas like Platinum Fitness, if I go in for a workout, when I go in to check in to actually give them my number to sign in for the workout, or to sign in to make sure that I got the membership, I'm sitting there for like 20 minutes just chatting. So it's like, I'm like, before my workout's even beginning, I'm just like talking to the people because I've been there for such a long time that like everybody just is familiar with everybody. So it's like, it's nice to have those conversations and go to like a local gym. Whereas Good Life, it's literally like you just scan your number and you work out, and it's just, I find like the atmosphere is just completely different. So I just think it's like very important that like you got to think like how much time, if you're training, if you're going to somewhere like every single day to train, I think like you should pick somewhere that you enjoy, because you're going there every single day. And I think another thing that you mentioned too, which is important, is the equipment. Because like not every like gym, if you're training at like a smaller gym, they might not have all the equipment that you need. So I think that it's kind of good from your perspective to be able to have like the access to having Good Life versus having like something like a Crunch Fitness, where it's like, for me personally, my workouts do change. Like I know like we have at like in Good Life, they have that like chest supported T-bar row. So it's like the machine where it's like you put your chest up against it and you do the T-bar row that way. Yep. Whereas like if I'm doing a T-bar row and I don't go to Good Life, I go to Platinum. They don't have that, so I just have to do like a traditional like with the closed grip attachment, and I do the T-bar row that way. So I think it's just like kind of cool to be able to have access to different machines, because I know when I first went there, I was like, oh wow, they have like a bunch of cool machines that I've never tried, right? So it's like it's always interesting going to a gym or having a couple different options. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up just because that's what kind of came to my mind when you said that you kind of have two memberships. But yeah, so in terms of your, when was the last time that you actually like went to the gym, or when was like what was your last workout?
Well, let's see. Pre-COVID, we'll call it. I think it was right around the week of my almost birthday, around March 8th, March 10th, where I think everything just went poof, shut right down. And my last workout was chest. I believe it was chest and shoulders. So yeah, it was just quite bing, bang, boom, shut down right away. And everyone was like, hey, what now, right? So
yeah,
it was definitely been fast.
Mine was like March. They closed, Good Life closed on the 16th of March. And I got, so that would have been like a Sunday or a Monday. I think it was probably Monday. And I went to the gym like Saturday. So I would have went on like the 15th, I think it was, somewhere around there. And I literally get an email when I wake up the next day. Like I'm like, I think everything's normal. Like I didn't realize they were going to close. And I got a thing being like, oh, we're officially closed. And I was like, oh, wow. Like that wasn't much notice at all. So I guess it's like, so that kind of that kind of like goes into the next thing that I kind of want to bring up. So it's like, most of the gyms probably did close, like if maybe you kind of got a little bit of notice, but I think for the most part, like a lot of things just happened like really quick. And it was like, it's definitely the right decision, because like things need to close and you need to kind of isolate. And I think that's extremely important. But from like a perspective of like preparing and like just being able to like adjust your training, like what was your, I guess like, I understand you got some equipment and stuff, but like, I guess like, what was your first training, like your home training workout? Like, what did that consist of? And what was kind of like your approach to being like, okay, well, the gyms are shut down. Like, how did you think about approaching your training, I guess?
Well, first of all, the backtrack, when I was at Crunch Waterloo, and I was watching the fiasco worldwide of this virus completely spreading like wildfire. Man, I think our first case was in Ontario was around the first, second, third week of March, and then it went to 10, 50, 100, and I'm like, you know what? I said, this is going to close down, man. I said, I got a funny feeling things are going to close down. So when I was working out, I was already mentally prepared for that.
Yeah.
And sure, I have a bunch of equipment now, but that took a bunch of months to compile. But when I first started my first home workout, my uncle gave me a 135-pound rubber, two 45-pound rubber plates in the bar. So I'm like, hey, I just did a lot of deadlifts, a lot of barbell rows, whatever I could do with 135, but it was mainly a lot of back to when we first started working on, the push-ups, the crunches, the elevated push-ups, and all that stuff. So I said, I just mentally taught myself, okay, this is how it's going to start. We got to do something. And then I just progressed. I started with buckets of sand and gravel, as anyone that's on my Instagram saw my Instagram stories.
Yeah.
I would just go all out with that. And, I was going to go to Mexico in October. So I'm like, no, the hell with that. I'm canceling that because I'm not risking my health for that. So I lucked out because I had a lot of funds to build a home gym. So in my case, I was lucky to have that source of funds, whereas a lot of people nowadays don't, or are now just starting to get back buying stuff. But I just went all out with whatever money I had, and I went from I guess you could say a zero ground gym to a little bit of a mini gym in a matter of a couple months. So I just had my mindset saying, okay, this is only temporary. I'm not going to let this get this to me. I've been through a lot more stuff than this. We've all been through a lot more than this in the past. So we just got to keep focused, stay positive, and find resources of what to use, So it definitely paid off.
Did you like get to the training like immediately? Did you have like a couple of days where you were like almost like to like let it set in that like, oh, okay, I actually need to like get these workouts in. Like I need to like, because I understand like the most important thing with the gym for me and just everything is just like the routine, right? Like you wake up, you eat breakfast, like you look forward to training every single day. You have a time when you train, whether or not like whatever your work schedule is or like whatever your commitments is like most times, like obviously things come up and your training changes every now and then, but you always know that you can at least get your training in. So I think that like when the gyms were open, that was like my biggest security was like, okay, well, I can't train this time, but I'll train tomorrow, or you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a problem because I knew the gyms were always going to be there. But like once the gym shut down, I think that was the biggest thing for me that like impacted me was just like the uncertainty of being like, okay, well, if I don't take this into my own hands and like actually do something and be proactive, like I could go like a month without doing anything. And that was like completely unlike me because like I'm so like, for the most part, I'm like a huge planner. I'm like really organized. I'm very proactive. So I guess just to kind of go back, like, did you kind of like day one, like, oh, the gyms are closed, next day I'm getting right to it? Or was it just kind of like an initial, like letting it set in and then you kind of got to it eventually? Like, how did that play out for you?
I went right to it, man. I said, okay, I got 8 buckets down here because I used to take the Hulk mass gainer. So those buckets are pretty sturdy.
Yeah.
And I had sand and salt, and I had the water softener salt as well. So I cut everything open. I didn't care how much it weighed. As long as it was heavy, I lifted it. And I had a fuel rod and a wooden 2x4, which wasn't really a great idea, but it was something. But it was something. It's okay. I still have my eyes. So I just started repping out, man. I didn't go ape crazy like I would used to. I just focused on getting back with the motions and just getting back with mind muscle connection and just giving my body, that therapy back slowly but surely, and not shocking the CNS so much that I'm going to burn out or hurt myself.
Yeah.
And so I just stuck with the basics, whatever I could do: shoulder press, overhead press, barbell row, squat, deadlift, whatever. Bench press was a bit of an issue because, well, I didn't have a bench, but I did a lot of floor presses. Yeah. I did a lot of floor presses, which really helped with my balance and stability. So, I just made it work. I just said, as long as I'm doing something, I'm making my body work hard. As long as I'm doing something, that's okay. I was mentally good.
Yeah. So for me, it was kind of different. Like I originally was like, you know what, I'll do something. I ended up taking like probably like 4 days off of like the gym because I was just like, I'm so formulated, or not formulated, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm so like meticulous like with my stuff that like I was like, okay, the gyms are closed, like I need to plan something, I need to figure out like what I'm going to do, like maybe I should do like full body, like I didn't know what to do. So like it literally took me like 1 or 2 days just like collect my thoughts. And like I don't know why, like I should have just did something because doing something is always better than nothing. But like anyways, it ended up just being back and forth for like 2 weeks where I was just like, I might train 3 times, I might train 4 times. Like it was just like it was all over the place. And then I finally got my shit together, and I was like, you know what? I just gotta train. Like I don't care what it is. And then I just eventually was like, you know what? I'm gonna I need some equipment. So I just ended up finding some like weights. I went to Walmart and like Canadian Tire. As much as you're supposed to be quarantined, like I went there every single day because I was just like, this is like I need weights. Like I'll go insane if I don't have something. Like I can't do push-ups and sit-ups, and I could, but like I didn't know how long it was going to be. So like I was just in my mind, I was thinking like I need something in order to be motivated to actually want to train, to be able to because like let's be honest, doing like push-ups and stuff is not fun. Like, whereas like doing dumbbell press, it's like way funner. Like, it's just, you get more enjoyment out of it. So as like a long-term thing, it's like, I'm not going to be doing like 3 sets of like 50 push-ups, you know what I mean? Because like 50 is just too many. And like, yes, you can like make the movement harder by like doing like different variations and slowing down the reps and stuff. But at the end of the day, I was like, I need to get equipment. And as you can see from my like YouTube videos and like my thing, I built like a bench. So that was like the first thing, because I was like literally doing stuff on bathtubs and like chairs and stuff. And I was like, I need like a bench. That's the first thing I need. Like, if I'm going to do something, I need a bench. So I built a bench, and then I built a dumbbell. And then, so I ended up like being self-sufficient for the most part. I was like, I need to be able to do this, because I couldn't find anything anywhere. It was like, I was trying to buy equipment. I was willing to like spend money on stuff. And even if I was willing to spend money on it, like, I still couldn't get it, because like people were just like empty. Like, I went to like Fitness Depot in Halifax, which is like a wholesaler for fitness equipment. And they like, I called them every single day. I was on them, and like they didn't have anything. They were sold out, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, yeah, I just kind of like eventually kind of got to it as I started accumulating more equipment. And honestly, I just continued my training split, like the one that I was doing, and I just modified it. I just did more sets. So like if I was doing dumbbell press, instead of doing like 3 sets, I would do like 5 sets. And I would just like limit the exercises. So instead of having like 3 or 4 exercises, I would have 2. I would have a flat dumbbell press and an incline dumbbell press, and I would just do 5 sets of each. So I would do like a total of 10 sets. And then I would maybe do another like 10 sets next workout. So like my volume was still kind of like there. It was just the rep ranges that kind of varied. Like I would do, because I only had like, eventually I ended up getting up to like 55 pounds or something, but I can still like, I can probably do 55 pounds for like 15 reps or like 12 to 15 reps. So it's like my reps just got higher. So like I wasn't really training in like the 8, it was kind of harder to train in the 8 to 10 rep range, because I didn't have the weight, especially something like dumbbell rows. Like if you're rowing like 50 pounds, it's like, it's all right. But like eventually like 80 pounds, 90 pounds, like we're talking for like 8 to 10 reps. Right. So it's like I needed a little bit heavier weight. So basically I just made do with what I could, but I just found that like I just increased the amount of sets, and I just increased the working, like the volume up, or the reps up to like 15 reps. And I just kind of got used to, it was almost like a mix between like cardio. Like I found that there was a little bit of cardio involved, because like once you get past like 15 reps and you're doing 20 reps or something, it's just it's muscular endurance. Like you're training like, you're in like out of the hypertrophy range. You're just kind of like training, which is good, because like you're recruiting like all your muscle fibers. Like if you're doing like, if you're working in multiple different rep ranges, you're like, you're able to like stimulate more muscle fibers, so they say. So I think it's good to like, I would say like normally when I went to the gym, I'd be like working in like the 8 to 10 rep range. And then some exercises I would have sets of like reps of 12, and then others I'd have reps of 15. So it was different. Like I enjoyed it. But as I kind of got more equipment, it became like really rewarding, because like I was literally just like training at home, and that's all I did anyways, was like train. So like it wasn't really like, after I kind of got the routine, it was kind of like pretty easy. Like it was just kind of maintaining the nutrition and figuring out like what I was going to do with like my calories. And I guess, so in terms of like motivation, I think that's like one of the hot topics in terms of like the whole quarantine, and just like I found like now that I'm back to the gym, I found that there's less people going to the gym. I don't know if that's just something that I noticed, or something that like, maybe it's not true. Maybe people are working out at home. Like I don't really know. But I guess like you mentioned, you started right away, and you kind of got like all this, like these sand buckets together. So I guess like at the end of the day, it's like, what do you think like motivates you the most? Like, what was it that like really allowed you to kind of say, you know what, like I'm gonna get to this day one. Like I'm not gonna let, the gyms being closed like stop me from achieving my goals. I guess it's like, what was the biggest driving force behind like your motivation to kind of like just get to work?
Well, it's the fact that my mental strength has always been at its highest. So I've always had that hustle, that grind mentality. So I just kicked it. I just kicked in the high gear, and I said, you know what? I worked too hard for my body to let it go to waste. I'm not going to sit around for an entire 3-4 damn months and let this shit fly by. No, I'm one that, you know what? I was at work during night shift, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, also on Kijiji, buying stuff, talking to buyers, talking to sellers. I did everything I could to salvage what I could get. And I did that for about 3, 4, 5 weeks every day, day and night, meeting people at, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or when I'm off at 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever it took, whatever it takes, man, I did it. And it paid off because I knew that I'm not going to let my body go to waste. I worked too hard for it. And, it's like, okay, this is do or die, man. This is like now or never. So that really pushed me to really do that. And, they say diamonds are made under pressure. So I just pictured myself under pressure, a lot of pressure. And I just went all out, and I proved myself that I did it. And, it was definitely successful. So if you're for me, I tell people, if you are really passionate about it and, everything closes down, you will find a way. Your mind will kick it right and say, okay, this is what we have to do. We got to sit down, plan it out. This is what we got to do. How are we going to do it? And you do it right away. And like I said, that's what I did. And I became successful. So.
Yeah, man, I was watching you every day on Instagram, like kick ass. And I was watching your stories, and I was following your posts, and I was like, man, oh man, like he's hungry, like his fire, like the fire that was burning inside you was like crazy. Like I just seen you doing like every day there was like new stories, there was there's posing, there was like something, and I was like, man, oh man, like it was inspiring to watch, because like I think a lot of people just kind of like felt the opposite. And I mean, like for you to kind of like have that motivation, it's like that's like next level. I mean, I had it like I didn't have it originally, but after I kind of got my shit together, like I understand exactly what you mean, that like no one's gonna do it for you, and like you do work like extremely hard, and like I guess it's like a lifestyle too, right? Like it's like you're not just going to the gym when it's open to go to the gym, like it's a part of your lifestyle. It's something that you do. It's something that you like thoroughly enjoy. So like, why would you let the gyms being closed, like, you know what I mean, like not let you do something that you enjoy in life? Like if there's ways that you can do it, then like whether or not it be body weight workouts, it's like it still is enjoyable. You got to make it like what it is, right? Like you got to like put some music on. You've got to like create an environment. You've got to like pick a time. Like it's just all about like planning and like making it a routine. And like honestly, like working out at home for me was enjoyable. And like I would 100% work out at home if I had like more space and like more equipment. Like I'd probably like if the gyms were still open, like I'd probably still work out at home. Like if I had like like a little basement and like all the equipment, like I would totally do that, because it's like a huge time saver. And it's also enjoyable just to like put in the work silently, like just to kind of like go through the grind, and like no one really knows, like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a cool thing. It's like you just show up like a year later and like you're like, holy crap, like you've been working out. It's like, oh yeah, like what gym do you go to? It's like, I don't go to a gym. Everyone's like, what? I just work out at home. It's like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Like just to be that one guy that doesn't go to the gym, that works out at home, that just like shows up at bodybuilding shows and just kills it. Like that's just like a dream.
Yeah, like Dorian Yates is a prime example of that.
Yeah, like working out in his basement, literally like did the same exercises like day in, day out, because he had all like, he knew what he wanted to do. He just bought the machines. Like he had like a leg press and like an incline bench, and like he literally just stuck to the same thing and just, you know what I mean, just kept killing it every single day.
Yeah, so it was just pretty much a basic back street gym is what he said. No one knew about it, that it was even there. So, that's my mentality. I'm not going to brag, but not a lot of people have the mental strength that I have, and I use it to my advantage. Again, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that's how I'm built, and that's how it is for me, is that there's not a lot of people out there, man, that have my mental strength, that can even match my mental strength for what I did. So, and that also comes from years and years of training your mind as well, right? So I think that's like an extremely underlooked like part, right? People are like, well, people are always saying like, oh yeah, how do you get the physique that you want, right? And it's like, well, yeah, everyone knows how important nutrition is. It's like people like rate like nutrition like higher than training, right? So it's like let's just say that like it's 60% nutrition, and like I'm just throwing out like hypothetical figures, but it's like let's say it's like 60% nutrition and 40% training, and then like, but I think a lot of people, what they don't like underlook, or what they overlook, is the fact of like mindset, right? Like just having the right mindset, because like not every day you're going to be motivated, not every day you're going to want to put in the work, and like everybody knows they need to train, everybody knows they need to eat right, but it's the people that can like do it when they don't really want to. You know what I mean? Or they're having a bad day, or they have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to do cardio, or they like had a shitty day at work and everyone's like pissing them off, and like they have to still go to the gym, or they're tired. It's just like the people that are willing to like be able to change their mindset. And like I think that like
that's like, to me, it's like that's another variable that should be in that equation. It's like you have your training, you have your nutrition, but you also have your mindset. And I think that like by surrounding yourself, like I think that goes by like back to the gym, right? Like by surrounding yourself with the right people, by surrounding with yourself with people who like care about your goals or who like try to motivate you, or like just like, you know, like, and I think that like I mentioned, like with the gym, like your atmosphere, like if you're going to a gym that you don't really like let's say you go to Good Life and you don't really like it, and it's just, you're just going there because that's the gym that's in the area. I think that like once you're tested, like once you're like, you know, once the gym's closed down, like once you like realize that like it's not all about training and nutrition, it's all about like your how bad you want it. I think that if you have that like connection with the people at the gym and like, well, I don't want to let them down, you know what I mean? Like I go there every single day for a year, and if I just disappear, they're going to wonder where I went. You know what I mean? Like, I think you need to build those connections. Like going back to what we said with training in your basement, like, yes, that's great if you have like the mental like solitude or the fortitude to be able to like put in the work when no one's watching. But sometimes like you need that like person at the gym to be like, you know what I mean? You need to have that connection at the gym. I find that's like hugely motivating. And like you could have like a really crappy day, but if you meet like one of your friends at the gym, it could just like completely shift it around, right? Because like you're in the gym, you're in your atmosphere, and like once you get to the gym, it's like getting that workout in. It's just like it feels absolutely amazing, no matter like if you have a good day or if you have a bad day. It's like it's always going to be there for you, right?
Yeah.
So just in terms of like training and nutrition, like you mentioned, like you kind of went right to work. I think like what would you say is like I kind of want to break them up. So I'll start off with training. What do you think was like your biggest struggle that you had with training, like right off the bat during quarantine?
It was mainly finding the equipment, and also my cardiovascular sucked because I wasn't really doing a lot of cardio. So
Yeah.
I was working on that first, because in order to get the strength and endurance up, I'm gonna get the cardio up. So that was mainly the struggle for me. But honestly, man, dieting, it wasn't a problem, because honestly, I took out all the cheat meals. I ate more high protein, moderate carbohydrate, moderate fat, and I got my body responding very, very, very well. And then I just gradually started, you know, like I said, doing training bit by bit, just gradually building back up. It was hard for the first couple of weeks, man, because, as you know, it's like what I said, when it's like you're in the MLB, you're a baseball pitcher, you're used to throwing 95 to 99 mile per hour fastballs, and then you're out for a week with back tightness. You got to start all over again. But the body is not going to keep up that level for a certain period of time when you're absent from it. You know what I mean? So you got to build back up. Sure, it was a struggle for me at first, but again, my mental strength just took over and said, you know what, you're going to be fine, man. And that's what happened. So definitely just trying to figure out what to use and how to use it was really the biggest struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah.
For me, I would say it was probably like, I'd say the obvious one is what you said, like just having the equipment and not having not having the equipment to do it, but just to kind of like go like the extra mile. I think the biggest struggle for me was like just routine, like not having that like spot to go, like not, because I think like the gym for me, it serves as a purpose to be able to get out of the house. Like it serves for like just like I get to the gym and it's like, okay, like now it's an environment, right? Like you go there, it's the gym, everything is there that you need. And I think that like not having that routine, not having like just like literally getting up from my coffee table, and like I do a lot of work from home, right? So it's like getting up from my coffee table and like just going to like my coach area and like moving the coach away and like having to put down the mat and like move the homemade bench over and then like load up the dumb, like just like having to do that myself and like figure out the routine and like what time am I going to do this? Like when am I going to, I got like all day, like I don't need to go out anymore. Like we're isolating and like, just like, there's no reason to go out. Like you shouldn't be going out. So it's like, just like figuring out the routine. And like, I found that was the biggest struggle for me, was just like, when am I going to train? And like, it just like training at home, I found it to be extremely difficult because like I'm in like a small little apartment. So like literally like I was doing like exercise. It just kind of was like the atmosphere. And like obviously the equipment too, because like doing push-ups, like if you don't have enough equipment, you just can't train optimally. Like you can like maintain, but like at the end of the day, if you don't have the weights and you don't have the stimulus, like it's really hard to grow.
Exactly.
And I think for like the nutrition, it was like, it actually like, it kind of like, well, it was like I was cheating and I was bulking anyways, like, so it wasn't a problem. But then I was like literally bulking and then it turned it into a bulk into like me sitting on the couch and not working out and only working out 3 days a week. And then I was like, why am I bulking? I'm not in a muscle building, I'm not optimizing my muscle building potential because I'm not going to the gym. I'm not doing the heavy lifts. I'm not progressively overloading. I'm not really training as good, right? So I was like, why should I be pounding all these extra calories into my body? And my weight started to go up. So then I was like, you know what? I want to try to maintain for a bit. But then I was like, you know what? I think I took the bulk too far. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut. So ever since the middle of quarantine, I would say it's probably 2 months now. I've been just slowly losing weight. So I'm on a very gradual cut. So I started off at 202 pounds or 203 pounds, and now I'm down to 191. So I'm down 11 pounds in 2 months. So literally I'm just trying to get down and get down and get down. I'm just trying to cut weight as slowly as possible to be able to preserve muscle. I'm not planning on really doing a show next year. I just kind of want to get down to a good level body fat where I see the abs, where I kind of see some of the work that I put in. And then once I get down there, I'll probably slowly bulk back up. But I'll do it much slower than adding in a shit ton of calories and I'll do it way smarter. So I think that I'm just going to bulk probably to the end of the year. I'll probably at least till January or February. I'd like to get down to when I did my show, I was down to 168 or 167 pounds. So that was the leanest I've ever been since I was 14 or something.
Wow.
But anyways, I'd like to get down to the 170s and just see what I'm looking like. So however long that takes, I'm trying to lose a pound a week. But I mean, sometimes it's less on average. So I'll adjust it. I'll add a little bit more cardio. I'll tinker around with the calories a little bit. And that's kind of but just to kind of get back to the question, I think the biggest thing for me, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat, what to do with your nutrition. And maybe you bulk too hard or you just maintained. I think at the end of the day, maintenance was probably the best decision. Unless you had a home gym or in your case where you actually had weights and you were training hard every single day, then why not bulk, right? Or why not eat to try to build muscle? Because obviously you have the potential to be able to build muscle when you have 200 something pounds or whatever in weights. So I think it all depends on your body and what level of training experience you are too. If you're a beginner lifter, you're going to make some pretty serious gains off doing push-ups every day. You know what I mean? But if you're more intermediate to advanced, you're going to need that 220, you're going to need the bench press, you're going to need the squat, you're going to need to be able to use those lifts, right? So
you need those basic lifts to not only preserve but to build actually muscle, right? So
they're extremely important.
Yeah.
So in terms of your home gym setup, so you pretty much got everything. You got a barbell, you've got dumbbells, you've got how much weights do you have? How much pounds and weights?
Guesstimate. Hang on. Well, I can tell you I got 2 benches, one just regular adjustable bench, one bench press actually that can go from decline to flat to incline.
That's key.
And then a squat rack behind me. You can't really see it, but it's there. Got a squat rack that my buddy gave me. So altogether, I probably have about 750 pounds of plates.
That's insane.
Man.
That's insane.
I got adjustable dumbbells with the prongs. I got 3
those things are key. I found that out really early. That I was looking to buy dumbbells and I was like, why am I going to buy a pair of 20-pound dumbbells when I can buy the spin locks? So I probably bought 2 sets. So I bought 4 spin lock handles. So that gave me 2 sets of dumbbells, and I literally just bought weights. It's the way to go for sure. It's annoying to be able to have to take the weights on and off. But the money that you save, how much you're able to put anywhere from if you have the weights or whatever, right? You're able to put 5 pounds up to over 100 pounds on one of those handles, right?
Yeah, I could just squeeze 100 pounds on those handles with.
You can buy the 18-inch ones too, eh?
Yeah, I do. I recently got a pair of those off Kijiji.
Oh, the 18-inch ones?
Yeah, I did. But
those ones are deadly.
I can't. I just use those for dumbbell rows because I can do 100 easily for 10, 12 reps.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, would come in handy because like if you're loading 10 after 10 after 10 on it, right? Like you can only fit so many until you're like, okay, like I've maxed this out.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, so in terms of like so maybe people are looking to like continue a home gym, or maybe maybe they kind of got some stuff, or maybe some people are still training at home. What would you say is like, if you had to say like, let's limit it to the top 3. Like, what would you say is the top 3 things for like home gym essentials, like absolute 3 things that you need in order to get an effective workout in?
Well, I would definitely say a bench or a bench press.
Yeah.
Even 2 dumbbell handles, barbell handle. It just really depends on what your goals are and what you're striving for. I mean, if you're like me and you're like an all-out like animal gym junkie, you will, you try and get everything that you can, like the 2 benches, 1 bench press, and a squat rack. But even if you have even a squat rack would do good, because you can do shoulder press, overhead press. Squat, bench. You can even do deadlift rack.
Yeah, if it adjusts down, you can do. Yeah, you can do that. You
Exactly.
can even do like barbell rows, like if you were picking it up off of the rack. I find that kind of helps. So there's like it comes in huge. Like a rack is like an absolute essential.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
I would say like a bench too. Like bench is like definitely like you definitely need some type of bench, because like when you're doing any type of dumbbell movement, like you can do floor presses, but like you need some type of like bench in order to do something. So I think that like if you can get something like you got, like that's incline decline, like you're absolutely set, because you've got like everything, and you can even like maybe even do abs on like the decline, right? You can do like decline sit-ups and stuff. So there's like tons of different like exercises that you can do.
Oh yeah, man. You just got to be creative and just look at it. But the squat rack is very versatile, man.
Yeah, and like some of the best like physiques, like they were built with like just the minimums, right? Like you mentioned Dorian Yates before, right? Like he was literally just like, he had the machines that like he had, and that's all pretty much all that he did. I mean, like when he was like, I'm sure he did lots more in his training career to get to like where he was, but to like progress his physique, like he just stuck to like the basics, like the barbells, the dumbbells, a couple machines, and like that was pretty much about it. So I think that a lot of people like really like neglect the importance of just like literally the basics. Like they might not always be fun. Like there might be like these like really cool variations to try. Like if you're doing like T-bar, like machine T-bar rows, or if you're doing like cable exercises, like they're all really great. But like at the end of the day, it's like just the foundations that like I think a lot of people like. I think that's like the number one mistake that a lot of people like make when they first start lifting, is they don't stick to the basics long enough. Like they'll go in and they'll do like, they might train for like 2 months, 3 months, you know what I mean? Like sticking to like the main foundational movements, but then they start seeing all these like cool exercises and like different variations, and they end up just like trying stuff too early. Like I don't think it hurts to do stuff too early, but I think like you need to put that solid like year and a half in of just like hammering dumbbells, hammering barbells, and like just sticking to the basics. I think like that's where you're going to build like the majority of your muscle. I think that's pretty important.
That's our bread and butter, man. And no matter what your goals are, whether you're a bikini athlete or a bodybuilding athlete, that's the bread and butter, man. You can't take that out. So I mean, you can. I mean, you can, but you're not going to build as much muscle as you would on a machine or whatever, right? So you definitely got to stick to compounds, man, first.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think I made that.
And always,
yeah,
even if you're, right to the very end, always compounds.
Yeah, and I just think like finding like minor tweaks, you know what I mean? Like as you go, like something might not feel good. Like there's certain exercises, like for some reason, like I don't know, I've always found like incline dumbbell press to be better than like incline bench press. So I think like as you kind of like go through, you're like, okay, yes, it's a compound movement, and yes, it's important, but like it might not feel good for you. So I think like as you kind of go through, you can be like, okay, yeah, like maybe deadlifts are bothering you, like switch to rack pulls, or like maybe try different variations. I think it's like maybe try it with the trap bar. I know, for example, like if you're deadlifting, your hands are out in front of you, right? Whereas if you're using the trap bar, you're out to the side of you. So it's like a completely different feeling. So like maybe like that could feel better for you. So I think it's like as you kind of go, you'll figure out like different variations, and it's like literally everything is just like a variation off the basic, right? Like if you got like a dumbbell raise, if you got like a lateral raise, you can do it like with a dumbbell. You can do it with a machine. You can do it with a cable. You can do it with resistance bands. So there's like 4 different options that you have. You can do incline dumbbell laterals. You can do you can do behind the back. Like there's just like everything is literally just like you're taking a foundational movement and you're just like changing it to like make it different, or changing like the resistance curve of it, right?
Exactly.
So I think like, yeah, sticking to the foundations is like extremely important. So like in terms of like your home gym, like how if you don't mind saying, how much do you think you spent on like everything?
Probably about 1,200.
1,200. Oh, that's all.
About 1,200, 1,400. I mean, like, I had 1,500 for Mexico saved up. So, like I said, I lucked out. I had those funds accessible to me.
I thought it would have been like $2,000 or something. I thought it'd been a lot more than that.
No, I wouldn't pay 500 pounds a place, $500 a place with only 200 pounds. That's just nonsense, man. I mean, I understand everyone's trying to make money, but you got to really be conservative, man. You got to watch out for those guys.
Yeah, man, people were like putting like these like garbage weights up on Kijiji and stuff, like these sand weights that were like broken. And I picked up this like milk crate that had like weights in it. And I paid like $70, I think, for it. And like I got it home and like it was just, everything was cracked. And like, I mean, she was an older woman. Like I wasn't going to go back to her. It wasn't even her weights. It was like her son's weights. So at the end of the day, like I got what I paid for. Like I didn't ask enough questions. I just was like so eager. And I just jumped on the bandwagon because I was like, oh crap! Like an ad was posted in Truro. Like, what's
exactly?
Like, what's like what's like that was just kind of like, to me that was like, oh wow! Like I might as well go pick it up. So like I messaged her and like she had like one picture and I was like, I didn't bother asking. I was just like, I didn't want somebody else to beat me to it because I was like, at this point I hardly had anything, right? So I was like, something is always better than nothing. And I went there and I was like, you know what? No, sometimes nothing is better than something because like I couldn't even use them. Like I picked up one of the weights and it cracked and then sand fell out and it was just like, oh, that was a waste of $70. But in terms of like training at home, like there's probably tons of people that are like still, because I know like there's some pretty crazy spots in the States right now that are like, I think the States are like, I don't know if they're getting worse or not. But I don't know. Like,
man. They're out of control right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of my viewers are probably like from the States as well. Like I always like go on the YouTube like statistics or whatever, and it shows like the percentage of people that watch. I think like the US is probably like my top one. So like I guess like for people that are still training at home, like what tips would you give them for just like sticking it out in terms of like their training and nutrition, just like going forward if they find themselves struggling, like what kind of advice like would you give them, I guess?
I would definitely say keep your mindset of what it was when you were at the gym. Remember your why and why you're doing it. And if you're really big on motivation, I actually, if I could show you here without affecting this thing, my whole wall is full. Well, not the whole wall, but my wall is full of all the Super Show, the Olympia, the Arnold Classic posters I've collected over the years. So I put those up because those guys inspire me to be the best version of what I can be with bodybuilding. So I basically what Arnold did, you put pictures on the wall to keep yourself motivated and to know why you're doing it, who you're trying to emulate, and also just try to better yourself. But also when the motivation factor's off, you have to remember your discipline is what's going to carry you through.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that a lot of people
it was hard for me to very quickly. It was hard for me to train at home because I'm like, the atmosphere is different. But it took about a week to click in, and then I'm like, go. Now I'm on the freight train. I'm going 500 miles per hour, and it was nonstop from there. So it takes time. I'm not gonna lie. Everyone's different. I get that, but you really got to remember why you're doing it, and just don't stop. Like, don't stop, dude. Just keep positive. I put on Dorian Yates' Blood and Guts all the time when I'm training for the whole hour and a half. So it's just something to keep you really amped up and motivated. But also, like I said, when the motivation factor's off, you got to remember your discipline. Discipline is the factor of all. So you just got to keep everything in check. So, man, just stay positive. Find what motivates you, and just try and keep a positive mindset.
Yeah, I think like that's awesome. I think that's really good advice, is just to kind of like surround yourself with things that motivate you. Because I think a lot of times like people get like, it's so easy to kind of like lose track of your why and like why you first started working out. And like, I think a lot of people don't really update that enough. They don't really like check in with themselves and like figure out like, oh, well, maybe my why has like changed. You know what I mean? Like you go from like, personally for me, it was like, I'm not going to get into this because I've got into this in another podcast, like pretty in depth. But I think for me, it was more of like a weight loss thing. So it's like, I think it's very easy, like once you lose the weight, to be like, okay, like the weight's gone. Now it's like, okay, if I don't have a plan, like I'm just going to put it all back on, because it's like you achieve one goal, but you don't really move on to the next. So I think that like you have to take the opportunity, and I think this is like a perfect opportunity to be like, okay, well maybe I want to try powerlifting. You know what I mean? Like think about different things that like maybe interest you. Like maybe you've been putting something off. Like maybe make a plan so when you go back to the gym, like you're able to prioritize something, or maybe you're able to try something new. So I think it's like a good opportunity to kind of reflect and like figure out your why and just kind of like improve your mindset, improve your outlook. And I think the biggest thing is just like my biggest tip would be just to don't stress, because I think you can get in your own head, and I think it's very easy to kind of like demotivate. Like there's a lot of things out there that are like demotivating now. You don't need to pile that up on like with like getting down on yourself. I think that like you can see like what's going on. Like people are definitely like having a hard time in terms of like financial and just like being able to deal with like people that are getting sick. It's like, why should you make it worse by like getting down on yourself? So I think like at the end of the day, it's like just don't stress about your training. I think like have fun with it. I think that was one of the biggest things that I did. It's like you can get like when you're so goal oriented, like you're so focused on one thing, you're like, I need to go into the gym, I need to kill it, and then I need to go home and I need to eat my shake or drink my shake, and then I need to get up the next day, so I need to be in bed early. It's like you're so structured like all the time that I think that like you forget that like you're doing it because you enjoy it, and like I think that gets lost. And I think like that's why I feel like a lot of people give up, is because like they get to the point where it's no longer fun. And I think that like if you can make your home training fun, and if you can find ways that like maybe when you go back to the gym, like you can take it seriously again, if that's what you enjoy doing. Like I 100% enjoy taking it seriously. That's like why I do it, is because I want to improve. In order to improve, like I have to go, like I have to train hard, I have to put in the work, I have to do things I don't want to do. And that might not be fun at the time, but at the end of the day, it's like I think you just have to like not worry about stressing over it, like only control what you can do, and just like have fun with it. Like set up the workouts so they're enjoyable. Don't think you have to do something at home just to do it. Like if you don't enjoy it, I think you'll be like you'd be more apt to stick with your home training. Like I didn't really like full body training when I did it, right? I did a couple workouts of it and I was like, I'm not going to be able to stick with this. So like, why am I going to try to force myself to do it? So like, if you have to follow a bro split, like whatever it is, if you're training one muscle group a day, like whatever it has to be, like just as long as you're having fun, you're able to stick with it. And then you're not stressing out about it, because like it's going to affect everyone around you. If you're stressing out about your training and you're putting on weight and everything, like you're going to be depressed, like you're going to feel shitty, and like it's going to affect your relationships, it's going to affect your job, it's going to affect your work, it's going to affect everything. So I think it's just like one steamrolls into the next, and like if you don't catch it early enough, and like maybe you're in the boat right now where you haven't worked out in like a week. I think the biggest thing is just to do something, like start tomorrow. Don't say that you're going to, and you don't need a plan. Like you really don't need something. Like just go in and crank some push-ups in. And like, I guarantee like once you start working out, like you'll be able to do it. Like, I think the hardest part is just starting. Like I went in when I was doing home workouts, like I mentioned before that I'm like meticulous and I like to plan, I like to organize. But some of the best home workouts that I had when I was just like, you know what? I feel like doing some push-ups. So like I would stop what I was doing, and then next thing you know, those push-ups would lead to a full like upper body workout, right? Just because like I got the blood flowing, I feel a little bit good, the push-ups felt good, I got like a nice little chest pump on, then I'm like, okay, well, let's do some shoulders, right? So it's like, I think that like not having a plan is sometimes better than having a plan, because if you stress too much out about it, at the end of the day, you're just going to demotivate yourself. Exactly. And I think that's what happened with me was.
Exactly. And just to sum up this topic, control the things you can and stop worrying about the things you can't control.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's kind of good for that topic. But in terms of like, so now I kind of want to move on to like quarantine being like now that I guess it's not really over, but like for most people, it's like kind of, a lot of people have returned back to the gym. So it's like, I guess like what was like what would you say is the biggest takeaway that you had during like quarantine? Like now that you kind of like, what did you realize so like from the start of quarantine to where you are now, what was like the most important thing that you learned or like that you realized?
Don't take things for granted. Things can be taken away from you in a blink of an eye, and be humble for what you have, and just be ready for the unexpected.
Yeah. I think for me, it was probably like that, like nobody's going to do, no one's going to do anything for you. Yeah. Like I think at the end of the day, it's like, you have to be willing to do it in order to get to where you want to be. Like no one's going to grab you by the hand and make you do stuff. So I think that was the biggest thing that I realized is like if you wanted to sit on the couch all day and do absolutely nothing and binge on Netflix, then like you could totally do that. Like that was what happened for a lot of people during quarantine, was just like people were trying to find stuff to watch, people got into video games, they were just looking for ways to kill time, right? And it's like at the end of the day,
I know people from the gym that got into drugs right away.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Mentally couldn't cope.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, why not? Like you start going to the liquor store, like you start like going and buying alcohol, you start buying like whatever you're buying, like it can just steamroll, and like next thing you know, you don't got anything going on tomorrow, so it's like, well, I might as well buy more, and then next thing you know, I think that's kind of like ties into my point. It's just kind of like you got to be willing to like take initiative, you've got to be proactive, you've got to do something, because if you don't, things can really turn around pretty quickly, and you can find yourself in like a rut. Very, very quickly. So I think the biggest thing for me was just like almost just to shut up and do the work. You know what I mean? Like no matter how bad I feel, like now that the gyms are open, like I'm literally looking forward to every single day that the gyms are open. Like I go to the gym every day and I'm like, this is awesome. I get to train today. Like it gave me like a new realization of like how much, like not necessarily I took things for granted, but like it really opened my eyes up to like, if I really want to do something, I can do it. I just got to like put my mind to it. And like once I settle on something, I think that like you just got to figure out like point A to point B and how you plan to get there. And after that, you've just got to put in the work. Like I think too many people are focused on like the most optimal approach. Like, but at the end of the day, it's like they only want the most optimal approach is because like they're lazy. So like the reason being, it's like I think like you learn more from like the not the most optimal approach. Like if you took like a 10-year career and someone did something the most optimally versus somebody who didn't do something the most optimally, I guarantee the person who didn't do it learned a lot more. Do you know what I mean? So I think that learning from your mistakes is like huge. And just being able to like put in the work, you know what I mean? Like figure out what things work best for you and like just like learn from that. So I think that like the whole quarantine thing for me was just like just knowing that like I'm better than just like sitting home all day and doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like some days it might feel like that's the only thing to do, but like I don't know, go out and build something. Like I built my own weight bench, I built my own squat rack, I built my own dumbbell, like things that like I've never really thought about doing ever. I'm not saying that like I'm not handy, like I'm definitely not handy at all, but like I set my mind to it and I did it. Like I made like a dumbbell, I didn't think I'd ever do that. I made a bench, I didn't think I'd ever do that. Like I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't dwell on the fact that I couldn't do something, and I was just trying to be like as self-sufficient as I could.
You just got your ass in gear and got it done, man. No questions asked.
So in terms of people that are like returning back to the gym, I guess like let's say there was let's take a hypothetical situation. Let's say there was a beginner who like didn't do anything whatsoever, who like maybe was training for a couple months before the gyms opened. Like what kind of advice would you say for that person, like when they're returning back to the gym? Like what kind of split should they follow? Should they kind of like, because I think what I'm kind of getting at here is I think a lot of people like want to go full tilt. Because the gyms are open. So I think that one of the hardest things to do is to kind of like hold back. And like if you're a beginner and someone who's might be new to the gym, like training 5-6 days a week might not be like the best for you. Like you might be better off sticking with like 2 to 3. So it's, I guess, like what kind of advice would you give for somebody who's like a beginner who like kind of maybe put on a little bit too much weight, but kind of want to start going back to the gym and start getting their like routine back?
Yeah, and I think right now, with being that the gyms have been closed for 16 weeks already, approaching 60 weeks, I think for any level, even if you have a home gym or whatever, excuse me, just getting back to that environment. You know what, guys? It doesn't matter what level you're at right now, whether you're a starter, you're an amateur, or whatever. Get your mind right. Yeah, you're going to be hyped up getting back to the gym because everything is all access to you right now, and you're back in Candyland. But, just take it slow. Again, check your ego at the door. Get yourself mentally prepared the right way. Take it slow. Concentrate on getting back with the movements, getting back with the form, getting back with the weights, seeing how this feels, seeing how that feels. You kind of have to do a reevaluation all over again, right? And that's actually what my coach, Leroy Rollins, posted on his Instagram a couple hours ago about what to do when going back to the gym. And those are one of his pointers. Just take it slow, get your movement back, get your flow back, your breathing, your form, everything on points. Yeah. And do that for a few weeks, and then you can do whatever you want. But no matter what level you are, guys, I don't care. You can just take it slow. It's good to be back, but just take it slow first, get your body back into the rhythm. And again, you probably will only have an hour. So don't do crazy giant sets, supersets, cluster sets, whatever. I just made that up, whatever. I'm just being dramatic. but just take it slow, man. Just give your body back. Just give your body what it needs. And then just, as weeks go by, gradually build up.
Yeah. I think the biggest tip that I would have is just to follow a program. I think that a lot of people now is a good time to implement some structure because you're kind of getting back. So I think that if any time is better to follow a program, I think it's now because it's kind of like a fresh start because a lot of people were kind of laid off from the gym for a little bit. So I think that giving you some type of the reason why I like a training program, following a program is because it has a start and it has an end. And if you're doing it for the start, you're more likely to stick with it. So someone who's a beginner lifter who's looking to go back to the gym, it's they might just be completely lost and try to train. They might train really hard for the first week, be extremely sore, and then not have anything left for the next week, end up working out a couple days and then end up giving up on it, or just do you know what I mean? Just getting discouraged. Maybe their strength wasn't there, or maybe they kind of put on some weight and they're kind of I don't know, embarrassed or whatever, whatever it is. I think the best thing is just to kind of stick to a program and think of it as a challenge. You know what I mean? If it's an 8-week program or a 10-week program, I think sometimes those things can be good and they can be bad. If you get the mindset in that it's only going to be 10 weeks, then you might not continue something after that. You might but I think that from a beginner, I think it's 100% good because you need sometimes you need someone to go tell you to go do deadlifts. Sometimes you need someone to go tell you to do squats. There's plenty of times that I went into the gym where I'd be okay, I think I'm going to do squats today. And I get in there and I'm oh, I didn't do squats today. You know what I mean? But if I had that written down in my program and I was I'm doing squats today, then I would probably do them. So I think that by having a program, having someone and almost put the workout in front of you. And I think that there's a difference between a bad program and a good program. I think you need to find a really good program. Personally, right now, I'm actually listening to my own advice. I started Jeff Nippard's push-pull legs.
Yeah.
So I recently got his push-pull legs program and I've been following that. So I'm in week 2 right now. And I just think that right now it's just exactly what I needed. I needed that fresh change. I needed that challenge. I needed to have the workouts written out for me. I needed the progression. I just needed it because if not, I would get too down on myself from all the strength that I lost. I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed is when I went back, man, I'm telling you, the bar felt heavy. The 40-pound dumbbell, 40-pound dumbbells felt heavy, right? So I was too focused on where I was before, and I wasn't really focused on where I want to go. So I kind of got lost in my own self. You know what I mean? Putting myself down. So I was you know what? I'm going to follow Jeff Nippard's program. He's a pretty renowned guy. He's got a lot of good science-backed information. His program's actually extremely legit so far. And if there's an exercise that I come across that I don't really enjoy or something that doesn't feel good, I swap it out for something else. So, but I always keep the basics. If it's a tricep exercise, it's a skull crusher, I'll try to swap it out for something else overhead. You know what I mean? So I always try to keep the movements the same, and I just change the variation. So I still include it. But I think that would be my biggest advice for a lifter. And I also do have a training program myself that I actually released probably a couple months ago. And it's basically a periodized training program where you follow kind of similar. It's a strength block and then a hypertrophy block. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out. I'll put it in the description below. But I think that following a training program and investing in one, it's definitely going to be a must, I think, for a beginner, just to have that structure and to have that motivation, I think is 100%. I think a lot of people need that right now, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
So in terms of your training, I kind of want to move more into, I think another thing I kind of want to bring up is dealing with soreness. Cause I know that when you start going back to the gym, you might try to train 4 days a week, but then you might figure you could be sore. I know when I first did my first week, it was supposed to be leg day, but my legs were still wrecked from the other leg day. I did squats, but I think I put I was doing 4 sets of 5 or something. I probably had I think I had 225 on there, but literally my quads were sore for 3 or 4 days. And I went to go do leg day, the second leg day of the Jeff Nippard program, and I just couldn't even do it. So in terms of dealing with DOMs or dealing with soreness, what would you advise somebody to like kind of like push through a little bit of soreness, or like when do you kind of know that maybe you're too sore to work out? Like is there a spot where you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of too sore today, but like if it's like a little tender, like do you think you should still work out, or like how does that kind of work?
Yeah, it really just depends on how sore you really are. Like, like if you're getting back to the gym now, just start with training everything once a week to give your body the extra time to heal and to get the muscles recovered and everything right. So, like if it's kind of hard to really describe, right, with the pain, but like, I mean, if you're to the point where, okay, it's second leg day and your glutes and your quads are still super sore, I wouldn't.
My calves have been like, I've gotten okay, this is something I actually want to talk about for real though. Do you find that like when you're sore, like if like let's say, so I'm taking the example of like my calves. So like, do you find that when your calves are sore, do you find it helps improve your mind muscle connection? Because like for me, for example, the reason why I say that is because like my calves were sore for like 5 days, but like I get this feeling in my calves where it's like in order to make it feel good, like I have to flex it. So like I'm sitting there all day subconsciously flexing my calf, right? And I've always had a hard time flexing my calves. But like now when I'm sitting down at my desk doing something, I'm like, oh, I think I'll flex my calves. And like I'm getting this like huge like contraction in my calves all the time. Like when they're like, because when something's sore and you flex it, it's like, oh, it's kind of tender. You can feel it a little bit more. Like that's exactly what I'm feeling in my calves. Like before I was like, oh, they're not really there. Like I don't really have well-developed calves. Like I was like, why should I bother flexing them? But like now that they're getting sore, man, like my mind muscle connection is through the roof.
Well, I was just gonna say that means your mind muscle connection is improving.
Yeah, and like I'm just doing standing calf raises. Like I'm not even doing like as much as I used to. Like it's just like weird. I found that like I think the number one muscle group that I have there's two muscle groups that I have a hard time connecting with. The first is biceps. I always like when I flex biceps, I always feel it in my front delt. And I always like feel it in my forearm. So I'll be like trying to flex my bicep and like my forearms will take over, like my front delt will take over. And another thing would probably be like my abs. I've always had a hard time like when you're doing like ab exercises, just like focusing on breathing, focusing on controlling, squeezing, contracting. I found that myself like just going through the motions too much with the ab exercises and not really getting like the most out of them. Yeah. So I've had a really hard time connecting with my abs, but like they're getting better. So those are like the two things that like I've been trying to improve on, have been like my biceps and my abs. They're just like weak points for me personally, just like not feeling them, not necessarily like the definition or like getting to the like. I mean, I've got pretty small arms for biceps wise. Like my triceps are way more dominant. Like my triceps are more developed than my biceps. But like I think like those are the two. So in terms of like my muscle connection, do you have like any particular muscle group that like you have a hard time connecting with?
Well, my arms need improvement too. Again, when you're taller, everything is stretched out, right? So, and everything, the attachments are a lot shorter, so you're not guaranteed to have the full bicep head. But honestly, because I'm doing back and biceps, one that I do chest, shoulders, tries. I do one dedicated arm day, but it's lighter weight and it's all contraction based. It's time under tension, squeezing. I flex in between sets. Just to really, because when you do that, you're improving your mind-muscle connection, and you'll know when you have a good mind-muscle connection when you are freaking sore as heck.
Yeah.
In all the areas, that means you really maximize the muscle, and you will grow from that.
So just on a note, so like, just to kind of continue this conversation, so like, do you think that like, why do you think your biceps is a lagging muscle group, or why do you think do you think it's like part genetics or part like just the fact that you didn't really maybe not do the right exercises or you have a hard time connecting with it, or like why would you say that your biceps are? Because I'm in the same boat. Like I've been trying to figure it out as well. Because I've always did like heavy rows. I've always did like so my back days like. I mean, I do use a lot of straps, so like I am like taking a lot of biceps out of it. But like I do like pretty heavy like rows and stuff like that. So you are getting a lot of like indirect work. Plus, I've always did arms. Like I've always did like the staples, right? Like I did heavy barbell curls. I did light barbell curls. Like I've tried a lot of things. So like, what do you think it is, just in general, or for you, like that's like holding you back for arms?
It could be genetics. It could be just be like, it's a stubborn muscle group and it just needs to be, prioritized a little bit more. Actually, my biceps are good. It's my triceps, but now that I started doing all free weight like skull crushers and behind the neck extensions and stuff, they're really starting to come up. So I think they just needed a whole new routine. And that's the thing, right? Your body is going to be accustomed to doing the same thing over and over again. It's not going to grow. You have to throw different things at it. I mean, for me, my legs blew up like crazy. That like my legs and my back were the first things that grew like crazy. And that could be genetic too, it could be, but I just think different muscle groups take different amounts of times to grow. But if you are stimulating it and you're doing the right exercise and switching it up and your diet is good and whatever, you'll grow. I mean, like the muscle will have no choice but to grow. It may just take a little bit more time, but since I've been starting doing those exercises and doing a lot more supersets and giant sets for arms, same thing with my shoulders, because they're a smaller muscle group, they can take a little bit more stress. They've been responding slowly but surely. So, you've got to play with it.
Another thing that came to my mind that I kind of want to discuss too is like, I've seen like just from watching a lot of YouTube videos and like from watching a lot of people get injured. I think that like the common one that you do see is the bicep. Like you see, like obviously there's tons of injuries out there, but like for me personally, the one that sticks out in my head, just because I've seen like a lot of people tear their biceps. I've seen a lot of videos of biceps, and it's like something you don't want to get in your head. But that kind of translates into my next point. Is there like, so for me, the reason why I bring it up is because sometimes with biceps, I'm scared to train it like the way that I should, because I'm scared that something's going to happen to my bicep. But it's weird because it's like the only muscle group that like I'm scared of. Like it's not that I'm scared of, but like I feel like I'm holding myself back, and I've never had any like weird feelings or nothing like in my biceps. But every time I'm doing like a preacher curl, I've always got that like thought in the back of my head that like, don't go down too far, make sure the weight's like appropriate. Like I've always got that thought in my head. So it's like, does that happen to you, or is there any muscle group that like when you're training it, you kind of got that like injury prevention, like, you know what I mean? Like, is there something that sticks out to you?
Well, to be quite honest, I know people that have been warming me up with 10-pound dumbbells and tear their bicep. It's just one of those freak things that happen. Any sport, you could be 100-yard dash and do like only 50% and tear your friggin' Achilles tendon, right? So it really is the margin for error is so like big in sports. But honestly, to me, if you are worried about tearing your bicep while doing a bicep curl, you're going to tear your bicep because you're focusing too much on the injury and you're not focusing on the actual mind-muscle connection. That's going to lead to a lot of problems with anything, any sport, any type of training. If it happens, it happens. Oh, well, but it's just one of those things that could come out of the blue. But to me, if you're thinking about it constantly that, oh, I'm doing hammer curls and I'm like, oh, I'm worried I'm going to, tear my brachialis. Yeah, I'm probably going to tear my brachialis because all that concentration is now off from the movement and it's going straight into the negative. So.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it that way. I think that's one of the reasons to why like my biceps have always been like lagging, is because like I got that subconscious thought in the back of my head, and it's just like I got better with it though. Like I'm like, now it's, for me, it's not necessarily my biceps. Like I kind of like eliminated that. I've been feeling this like really funny thing in my knee when I'm squatting, and I think that kind of preoccupied my biceps. Like it's always like that one thought that it's like, okay, if it's not my biceps feeling funny, now it's my knee. So it's like, and I'm getting older. Like I'm 30 now, so it's like I expect to feel like joint discomfort and shit like that. Like there's always things that like you experience as you get older. Like you just got to deal with it, and you got to like train smart. But it's just funny, like how when I was like 20, like in my 20s, and I was training, I was like, it was just all muscle. Like I didn't feel any joints. But like my bicep thing is fine now. It's like not holding me back nearly as much, even though I have never had an issue with it. But it's just that thought where it's like, oh, what if I tear it, right? So it's because I've just seen like so many people. But yeah, I think now it's like my knees. So it's like it's just hard to kind of like get that thought out of your head. You know what I mean? When you're doing it, and I think like you said, like if you're focusing on injuring yourself when you're doing the movement, then it's like it's only gonna like it's gonna make you think about that, right?
Exactly.
So I think you just kind of, it's something you just gotta like put the rest. Like if it's something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen at the end of the day. But as long as you're dealing with the correct load, you're using the right form, and you're not like ego lifting, and you're properly warmed up, I think that's a big thing. If you're going in and you're just going to do deadlifts right off the bat, like you might have to check yourself. Like you should do some type of like dynamic warm up or something. If you find like I've been doing that for squats lately. Like I noticed that like I did like a test or what, not necessarily like a test, but like I did like 2 different things. Like I would go in for like a couple days and like not warm up, and I found that like when I actually did warm up, my knee felt better. So like that helped me like psychologically. Like I'd always do pyramid sets. So I'd start off with the bar and then I'd work my way up to my working set, and I would consider that like a warm up. I stopped doing that and I actually started doing like foam rolling. So I'd go like now I don't do that now because the gyms are like limited to an hour. But like before, when I was like early in the year, when I had those thoughts going through my head of like injury and like joint stuff, and like I was feeling it in my joints versus the muscles, I honestly felt like foam rolling. So I'd go in before I worked out and I would do foam rolling. I would do like some light stretching. I would do 5 minutes on the treadmill, and then I would do some dynamic exercises. Like if it's leg day, I would do lunges. I would do some like hip rolls, like or whatever it had to be, whatever it was. And I found that like that just made me like it warmed me up, obviously, because that's what it's designed to do. But it made me in my head be like, okay, I did everything I could. I'm not going to get injured. Do you know what I mean? It was just like that reassurance that I needed. Yep. And then I was able to go like heavy on squats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But now I kind of want to move more into like your show, like the show that you're doing, and just kind of like your prep and stuff. So you're doing, so how many weeks? So how many weeks have you been preparing for your show, first of all?
Well, I'm not really competing until 2021 in September.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So have you finalized like a date?
Yeah, it's going to be September. Can't remember the exact date, but it's going to be in Belleville. It's the WMBF Ontario Natural Championships. Different organization, just because it's more natural to cater to more natural.
Yeah, you were in the CPA before, weren't you?
Yeah, and I'm kind of ducking out on that. I may sneak in. I may sneak in a CPA show in October, depending on how it goes with the WMBF. But WMBF is more sanctioned for natural athletes, and they do urine testing and polygraph testing and all that jazz. Whereas the CPA, not really. But yeah, so it is September 2021. I have been with my coach Leroy since last month because I really wanted to get my body freshened up and everything, and it has. It's obviously worked. It's drastically changed to where we want it. So right now it's just keeping a rhythm, keeping everything lean and tight. You know, still having the cheat meal once a week or every 2 weeks, depending on how I feel. And we're just gonna go. We're just gonna take it easy as we are now. Well, not take it easy, but just take it slow and steady, and then build back up lean from there.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, that might sound crazy, that you're like doing a show in 2021 in the fall. But honestly, that's exactly what it takes. Like, I think that like when I did my first show, it was like the spur of the moment. And like I had to drop like a crazy amount of weight. And then like I ended up having like 13 weeks to do so. And obviously I don't think I was lifting for long enough. So I didn't really build like as much muscle as I probably should have. Like I think I wish I had a little bit more muscle. I wish I would have put like another year in and then did the show. But honestly, it was just something that I wanted to do. It's something I always wanted to do. And honestly, the biggest thing that I learned from it was that like I could do it, and I could get that lean. I could like put in the work. I could do the diet. And honestly, like I wanted to make sure that it was for me before I put all like the time and energy into doing it. So I think that first show gave me confidence. Like it's like, okay, well maybe I didn't look the best. Maybe I didn't look how I wanted to look. And I also did it in an untested federation. So I was stacked up against people who were obviously doing some type of anabolic. So like that was on me, right? Because I chose not to, being natural. Yeah. But like I think that like I learned so much from that. So like going into my next show, I think I'll be able to like understand what it's like, and I'll be like, I know that I can do it. So I've already like distilled that confidence in myself. So in terms of like your show, so in terms of like, I'm going to get into your coach in a second, but like in terms of your calories, where are your calories at now? And like, where were they when you started?
Right now they're 3,250 calories. Yeah, intra-COVID, I guess. And then pre-COVID, it was around 5,000, but,
5,000, holy shit.
Well, before people go, whoa, that's a bit, it's like, no, because I was cheating like 3 times a week. I wanted to be big because I'm going into bodybuilding for big jump from men's physique. So I knew I had the body, I had the structure, I had to pack on the extra calories. So I was constantly just trying to pack in the extra calories by, burgers and cheat meals and whatnot. So obviously 3,250 clean calories is going to be a lot more filling than 5,000 junky calories. But mind you, not all 5,000 was junky. I'd probably say about 3,300 of it was clean. Yeah. But now but now my body's gone back into a clean, like an actual clean diet, clean rhythm, and 3,250 calories is still quite a bit, you know. So
are you eating based on of flexible dieting, or are you following a structured meal plan?
I'm following a structured dieting. I'm just following basic structured dieting. That like that'll probably change within the new year. So I just told my coach. I just told my coach, let's just start with the basic, because I haven't had a coach for a while. I've been out of the system for a while, so I didn't want. Yeah. I'm not one to shock my body into overdrive. Right? To me, that's not safe.
And do you have like, do you have a cheat meal, or do you have like, or is it a cheat meal, or is it a refeed day?
No, I have a cheat meal once a week, but I told my coach, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to wait another week just because my discipline is caught. And I said, you know what?
Wait another week to have the cheat meal, yeah.
I told my coach, you know what, coach, I'm going to give myself another week. And he's like, okay, whatever you feel like. And you know what? It turned out to be better because my discipline takes over. It's like, no, Ty, you haven't earned that yet. You gotta push your ass another freaking week on those squats yet. And sure enough, I did. And that's how I got my body the way it is now. You know, it's just by discipline and just getting your mind right, and just having a great coach, the good system.
So do you plan your cheat meal around like a training session, or do you just have it like on like, so if you're going to train like a weak point the next day, do you take any of that stuff into consideration?
I always tell my coach, like, coach, I ain't having that goddamn cheat meal until I train my legs for an hour and a half. He's like, man, do you have it after your workout, or do you have it before?
Always
after my workout. After my workout.
Yeah.
Feels so much
good, like a reward, right?
Yeah, I'm always one to say, no, I'm going to bust my ass. I'm not going to say, I'll take it. I'm going to bust my ass and then take it.
Yeah. So I kind of want to move into your coach. Actually, no, before I move into your coach, I kind of want to get an idea for cardio. So are you currently doing any I know you're probably like a year away, so cardio might not be on the radar, because if you're starting off at 5,000 calories, like you have a lot of wiggle room to be able to bring that down to, you know what I mean? So you might not need cardio, but like, did you start on any cardio yet, or are you doing anything for cardio?
Yeah, very quickly. I have a bike at the back here. I'm just doing 10, 15 minutes, not every day, probably every other day, but I've been doing abs. I've been doing abs every other day and cardio every day post-training, and that's really what helped actually bump up the calories too as well.
So you have like a set target, like a weekly target for cardio, like 90 minutes a week, or is it just kind of like, how do you track your cardio? Is it by the minutes, or is it by the sessions?
It's by the minutes. I have a timer on my thing and it saves it. So I just do 15 minutes a day, you know, nothing fancy, just basic, getting my cardiovascular system to par.
Yeah, I think a lot of people jump too early into that. Like, I think the biggest mistake that like people make is they start doing countless hours of cardio, and then they don't really do enough with their nutrition, that they end up like running themselves into like a hole where they can't lose any more weight without having to do like a crap ton of cardio, and then their calories get so low where it's like there's nothing to do but suffer. You know what I mean? Especially if you're doing a bodybuilding show. Like, I remember I was suffering for the last like 2 weeks, like 2.5 weeks, and that was self-induced because like I had nowhere to go because I had to lose so much weight that like I didn't have any other option. But I was doing like 2 hours a day of cardio. I was eating like a female competitor, like a bikini girl. Like I was eating like, man, I don't even know. Like I forget. I have my old diet. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. But it was probably like 1,200 calories. Like it was it was absolutely insane for like the last week. Leading up to peak week or whatever, like when I did peak week, it was like it went up pretty good, but like just to get down to like that 160s, because I was like in the 170s, and like to lose the first 30 or like 20 pounds or like 30 pounds was no problem. Like it was easy, not like it was suffering, but like it wasn't terrible. But to lose 3 pounds, like to go from 170 to break into the 160s, it was absolute torture. I had to add I don't even know how much more cardio, but like I was doing 2 sessions a day. I had to cut, like I was eating keto, like I was basically eating like 20 grams of carbs, all coming from like green beans and spinach. And like, so I would literally have like, you know what my main meal was? It was chicken on top of spinach, on top of green beans with mustard. And I was eating like that, like however many times a day for 1,200 calories. Like however like many times that like equaled up to 1,200 calories, that's what I would have. So like my workouts were absolutely horrendous because like I was literally like blessed by pre-workout every single day. Like I was running like 2 scoops of pre-workout because I had to, because I didn't have anything. Like I started off with 1 scoop, and then I was going to 1.5 scoops, and I was like, man, oh man, like I just can't do today. Like, but I need to, right? And I was like, I got to have 2 scoops of pre-workout. Take the pre-workout, and I'd go into the gym and I'd be flying around, but like, it just was absolutely. I'd just go home and crash. Like every day, it was just like, yeah, it was insane.
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah, but that's what I had to do, right? But like now that I did that, like I know that like if I do it smarter and I take a more strategic approach and I do it longer, I think that's the biggest thing is like you're doing it, you know that you're doing it, you have such a long time to prepare, so you're able to cut your weight, you're able to grow into the show. And I think that's like the biggest thing is to like not force yourself to do the show, to be able to grow into the show. I think that's like the biggest. I think that's like the most important thing that I learned was like how like much time it takes to be able to build the muscle, to lose the weight, and to show what you've got. Like it's not just as easy as losing weight.
No,
you know what I mean. You just can't cut calories because if you're I probably lost like a shit ton of muscle. You know what I mean? And now that I think back to it, like I probably had way more muscle before I started the prep. And then as I like began the prep and as I started cutting weight and doing like cardio and like cutting calories so much, that like I probably lost like a shit ton of muscle. You know what I mean? So
I saw your video. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man! Wow. I'm like, what is like really what happened here? You know? But I mean, I wasn't judging you. I'm just like, man, he must have some freaking extreme, man. But you know what? 4-letter word. You got to give yourself time.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah. Simple as that to sum it up. Got to give yourself time.
Yeah. I totally agree. So I just got a couple more things that I want to cover here.
Yeah, sure.
So in terms of your coach, I guess like what stuck out to you to kind of like go with Leroy? Like what was so appealing about going with him, and like what made you kind of sold on his coaching?
Oh yeah, well, first of all, I've been following him for quite a while on social media, mainly because he's also associated with the WNBF. He's passionate. I'm not saying all the other coaches don't, but he's passionate about healthy living, longevity, natural bodybuilding, like natural athletes, and wanting to see them thrive naturally. And you know, his work ethic is insane, and he's really dedicated to all of his clients and all of his athletes, and he's just such a positive figure in the fitness industry, very well known in the fitness industry as well. And like I said, really affiliated with the WNBF. And that's what drove me to go with him, was that his work ethic, his coaching, his just everything lined up with my work ethic. And I'm like, you know what, if I hop on with this guy, which I did, we're going to be a killer duo. And it's already been proven that, like, there's been people already that's saying, yo, man, Ty is putting in the freaking work. Is like, you know, he's working hard. But I'm like, yeah, but also because I got my scientist behind me as well, you know, Leroy. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's almost like a science, well, not science experiment, but it's just that our chemistry between coach and athlete is so strong that I never experienced before. And he really wanted me to get on his team right away. When I followed him, he's like, you have to come on my team. You got to. You know, I can't wait. And sure as shit, 2 weeks later, I announced that I'm joining Team Rollins, and all the other athletes were just super pumped. You know, they've been following me for a while too. They know my work ethic's insane. My mental drive is like through the roof, more than anybody else that they know of. So it's going to be. I said we're going to do some damage, man, and we already are. We're already doing a lot of damage. So
man, you're looking insane in your posing like already. Like I noticed that when you first started doing it, you know what I mean? Like you're seeing like your back is coming in like a lot. Like I noticed like up your upper back and like your back width in general. Like I noticed that there was a lot. Like you're extremely wide. You know what I mean? Like you've definitely got the back width. That's for sure. Like I noticed in your video, you're doing the back like lat spread. Like you've nailed that. Like you're definitely got that V. You know, that perfect V taper from your shoulders. Like that's definitely. I think that's a very. I mean, obviously I've seen your posing, but I think that's a very strong pose for you. Is your back lat spread? I think that when you get fucking when you get shredded and you get like extremely lean, like down to like show. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention was what's your anticipated show weight? Like, what are you trying to get down to? Do you think?
Well, right now we're just taking it day by day. Right now I'm 228, 229. So probably we'll see what we look at. We'll see what we look at 215, 220 that we'll kind of maintain. We got a lot of players. You know, I could drop weight fast. So as long as I stay lean in a certain range, it won't like I'm not gonna have to worry about it. So, but realistically, I told my coach, because of my height, I'm 6'4", just under 6'4". So I think realistically 215 minimum. We'll see what we can get around 220.
Yeah.
But we're probably going to be looking at 250.
That will make a pretty big improvement, because I think you mentioned that you were 200 your last show, weren't you?
Yeah, and that was from 195, 200. But mind you, I had no legs. Now I have legs.
Yeah, that's true.
That's really gonna fill out my physique a lot more.
Yeah, that'll make a big difference. But I'm telling you, man, that back lat spread, I think that's gonna look deadly. That's one of the ones where you need that instrumental. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that when you're doing your friggin' routine, you need to have that like da 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 da, like that big like whatever kind of pose you're supposed to. You just like come back with the back, like prep it, and then boom, you know what I mean? Like just explode to it. I think that would add like a whoa, like one of those like reactions where it's like holy crap, you know what I mean? And I think like when you get compared to the other competitors, like I don't know, God knows who's competing, but I think that like that's a very good pose. Just from what I'm seeing right now, that's one thing that I did notice is that you definitely got like some pretty wide back.
Yeah, man. And like I said, just wait till I get back on the lap pull downs, man. That's going to be even better.
Yeah, that's something I need to focus on. Like I actually have a funny picture. I'll actually throw it up on the screen right now so you can see it. I actually was going through my videos today and I found it, so I know exactly where it is, so I'll be able to throw it up. But if you actually look at it, it was one day out from my show and it was in like the hotel room, and one lat is like way noticeably bigger than the other one. It's like I think that like this lat or something is bigger and then like this side isn't. So if you can see it from the picture there, I'll throw it up. But yeah, like that's something I'm working on too. But yeah, like it's just funny how like I didn't realize it until like after the show, and I was like, oh shit. But yeah, posing is something you can always improve on. And I think like you need to like figure out a way to show your best physique, right? So I think especially with your posing routine, like for those who aren't familiar with like bodybuilding shows, like you get your mandatory poses, which you have to hit, and everyone's kind of compared and like prejudging or whatever, and then you have your like routine. They say that like it isn't like, I forget what it is. I think it's like I actually watched a podcast the other day. It was on Terrence Ruffin. You probably know do you know who he is?
Oh my God, that guy's physique is crazy. I saw him at the Super Show. Wow.
Yeah, he's absolutely insane, right? He was on a podcast the other day. It was Fahu, or I forget his name. I can't say his name. So, yeah, anyways, he was on that Bodybuilding and Bullets podcast, and he was saying, he was just like talking about like competing or whatever, and they said that like in classic physique, so like when you move up to like the IFBB Pro, they don't give any points for posing routines. So like for classic physique, but for men's open, so like in open bodybuilding they do. So like you're graded. So if you're competing in open bodybuilding, you're graded on your posing routine, like for your 90 seconds and your other one. But he asked back to the judges like how he scored for posing. They award like the best poser or whatever it is, right? But like they didn't give him any points for his posing routine. So that's kind of like one of the reasons. So he arguably placed second, right? And like a lot of people thought he should have placed first. But during the comparisons, like I can kind of see it. Like the other guy was a little bit wider. He had like a little bit more definition. But like Terrence will definitely like grow into that. Like he's gonna dominate. But I think, but his posing is like. Have you ever seen some of his posing routines?
I have. I have watched his posing all the time, and I saw him at the Super Show. Man, that was part of my French. Fucking beautiful posing routine.
Oh man, he's absolutely insane at posing, and he's so fluid, right? And he like just the way that he does it is just so like he's extreme at it, right? So I think that's like a good thing to be able to like watch. I think like spending time watching other people's routines and like trying to like figure out how you can make them your own, and just finding different things. I think that's absolutely huge. But yeah. So I just kind of want to take a quick little break. I'm just going to change locations. I just got a couple more topics that I want to discuss. And then we're going to wrap it up. So I'm just going to switch locations. Actually, we're not going to take a break. We're just going to continue going on. I just kind of want to cover a couple more topics. So I'm not going to switch locations, but I am going to turn on the light. So just give me a second. I got that Batman filter. It was like the dust coming in. It was like making me look heroic. So a couple things that I want to go into. So for getting lean, do you find that like what are some tips? I think a lot of people like maybe people aren't getting like contest lean because that's a completely different like type of lean than just like losing weight. But in terms of like weight loss tips or just like getting lean, do you have anything that like any tips for like nutrition? So is there any things that like personally for me right now, I got one right off the bat. It's these things right here. These are like flavored waters. They've got like 0 calories. I find that these are absolutely awesome. I also think like I've been using a lot of powdered peanut butter and just like different like foods that I've been subbing in and out. But like diet sodas and things like that have been huge. Do you find that there's anything that like when you get extremely hungry, but like you can't have any more calories, or like maybe you like, you know what I mean? Like, do you find anything comes in like handy for like dieting, like any type of dieting tips?
For hunger, I just, to be quite honest, man, I just, if I'm still kind of feeling hungry, I just kind of eat a little bit more protein, no fat. Because protein's what's really going to go up, right? So if I'm capped out at 3,250 calories, but I'm still kind of hungry before I go to bed, and I don't like to be hungry before I go to bed, I won't have a problem cooking up another chicken breast. You know, it's just more protein. It's not going to kill anything.
Yeah.
So if anything, it's just going to sustain you until you wake up the next day. So, but if you have a coach too, let him and her know that you're still kind of feeling hungry. That way they can amp up the calories as well, amp up the protein or drop the carbs or whatever. But yeah, if you're on your own and just want to be lean, like not stage lean, because obviously staying stage lean is not safe year round. Just eat, higher volume foods as well. Like higher volumes, more veggies with your protein or whatever, right? But definitely kind of focus on more of the protein spectrum than the carbs or the fat, because that's gonna make you a little bit more hungrier than you already are.
Yeah, I think it's totally like it's way better if you're gonna overeat. It's way better to overeat on protein. So I totally agree. I think like the biggest thing for me, man, I was a gum chewing maniac. Like I literally chew so much gum. Like I got to the point where I actually had to track the gum because I was eating that much gum. I think there's like 3 calories, anywhere from 2 to 4 calories for a piece of gum. I got to the point where I was probably having like 20 pieces of gum a day. So like I was just chewing gum nonstop from the moment I woke up, because like I said, I was on that crazy like spinach and bean shit, right? So like I was literally friggin' starving and I had nothing like, and like I found that like the biggest thing that I found to help was gum, because like it just like you're just chewing, so like it literally feels like you're eating. Like it kind of gives that same like reaction to your brain where you're just sitting there like chewing the whole day. So I found that like if I'm extremely hungry, before I make like a rash decision and be like, okay, I'm gonna pick up a bag of like barbecue chips. And just go like absolutely like crazy on them and like sit in front of the TV and just have no regrets. I think that I just always grab a piece of gum first, and I'm like, okay, before I actually pick up the chips, let me chew some gum. And I find that like gum has helped a lot. Diet sodas helped a lot. I think the biggest thing is just to like hydration. You know what I mean? Just to like drink a bunch of water. Like if you're like, I think like you need to do it during the day. Like if you just pound back a bunch of water, like you're just gonna pee it out. I think you need to like just like plan your water intake over the day. If you know you're going to be like cutting calories, like have like try to get 3 liters of water in a day and like have water with each meal. I think that that's a great approach, because like you're getting hydrated, which is awesome. But like water also like helps like fight hunger, so you're able to control it a little bit better. So yeah, I think like water is a great one. But another thing I kind of want to bring up was like I think a lot of people have like this perma bulk going on. So like people are literally bulking and bulking and bulking, and they just don't really have any type of plan of like when to stop the bulk. So I guess like when would you say like when should you draw the limit of like the bulk? Like when do you think that like there comes a point in a bulk where you're like, okay, I need to stop bulking. What do I do? Do I do a mini cut? Do I just gradually lose weight? Like how do you know that you've basically bulked too far?
When you start breathing too heavy, you can't perform the exercises properly and all that. Yeah, basically, your body's going to tell you, and your adrenal system's going to tell you, bro, you got to cut. You got to cut, man. Even your body can only be at a certain heavy weight for so long too, just like cutting weight. So you have to find that homeostasis, that balance, right? You got to be in the middle. You got to be more so in the middle, because that way your body's going to be more balanced.
Yeah, if you get out of breath tying your shoe. Like if you reach down to tie your shoe and you end up finding it like pretty taxing to tie your shoe, I think it's a good idea that you might need to bulk or stop bulking. But I actually listened to something the other day, and it was like they say that like there actually comes a point into so as you kind of gain body fat, the more body fat you have, the lower natural testosterone levels that you have. So there actually comes a bulk. So people are always like, you need to eat big to get big, but there actually comes a certain part where actually like where you have too much body fat. And once your body fat reaches a certain percentage, your body is not actually in an optimal like muscle building like potential or whatever. So you're not really optimizing it. So a lot of people think that they need to just like continue upping calories, and like the more calories that they consume, the more muscle that they're going to be able to build. But there just comes a point where like you reach a point where it's like, okay, you've bulked and you're at your peak bulk, but if you continue, you're not getting any more muscle building benefits. So I think that like you just have to be able to gauge your body fat and just kind of like have like a rough indication, like draw the line. Like I think a lot of people like will just bulk and they don't really have a number in mind. I think that like you need to pick a number. So like let's say you're like you get down to 180 and you're like, okay, well now I want to bulk. Pick a number that you want to bulk to. You know what I mean? Like maybe I want to bulk, I want to put on 20 pounds, right? So it's like once you get to 200 pounds, once you put on that 20 pounds, stop the bulk. Like make sure you have a plan in place to be like, okay, like I'm going to go from 180 to 200 in like 6 months or like a very like longer period of time, right? To kind of like minimize fat gain. So like, I think that like, you really need to be able to be strategic with it and be like, I'm going to stop the bulk at 200. Because if you don't have that, you end up getting to 200, then 205, then 220. And it's all different based on like your body. Like everybody can store body fat differently. Like some people might look like personally for me, like when I get over 200, like it just doesn't, it's not attractive. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just the bulk's gone too far kind of thing. And I know that now, but for someone like you that can carry a little bit more because you're a little bit taller, I think it's like different and in a bunch of different situations in terms of like your genetics, like your height, your like what your body can hold and like whatever. But I think that like at the end of the day, I think like you just need to be able to have a plan in place when you're bulking to know like when to draw the line. And once you get there, stick to the plan. Like don't just say, okay, like I got there, I told myself I was going to cut, but I'm not going to. I think you just need to, and I think having a coach helps too.
Exactly.
Because they hold you accountable to that. And they can make the tough decisions when they can help make the tough decisions like when you can't. So I think that's like a very important thing is just kind of know when to draw the line when you're cutting or bulking. I mean, I think a lot of people just get lost in the bulk and they end up just getting like they're just bulking for way too long. But yeah, I think we definitely covered a lot of different topics. I think there's probably definitely a lot of value in this. I tried to kind of bring up some different questions that were like maybe some other people had or just some people that are heading back to the gyms. I just kind of wanted to do more of an informative podcast. And I also wanted to kind of like see where you are in terms of your training and like how you plan to approach your training and stuff. So I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, man. You know, we covered a lot again. And like I said, a pleasure being on here talking to you guys from a different province, but wherever you are in Canada or the US, you know, I really enjoy continuing furthering my knowledge to you guys. Hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully it's somewhat educated because we're here to, motivate, inspire, and educate every single one of you. And also through COVID. And this is really why I wanted to do this COVID podcast, was to keep your spirits up and just say, you know, going back to the gym, you know, don't take it, don't go too crazy, but just be mindful of where you are, where you were, and then build back up. You'll get back to where you were. Just take it one day at a time. And so we will definitely be doing another podcast. We can do one probably when we start getting back to the rhythm of getting into the gym again. So, but we'll figure it out. And I love being on here talking to you guys, and I can't wait to do another one.
Absolutely. All right. So on that note, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you guys did stick it out this long, I'd really appreciate it. I do put out a bunch of different other different type of content as well. So if you do enjoy the podcast, I'm sure you're going to enjoy all the other content that I put out. And definitely give Ty a follow on Instagram. Connect with him as well. I'll put all his links and everything at the start and at the end of the video as well, so you can definitely connect with him. He's an awesome guy, and if you are looking for motivation, then definitely check him out because he's got like I'm saying, like during quarantine, like he was the reason why I kind of got my shit together with these home workouts. I seen you like pushing through these like bucket sets and like getting all this weight and just like seeing your progression from like doing what you were doing to where you're at now. It was actually like incredible, and that's kind of why I thought it'd be so interesting to kind of chat about it and just like. And people need motivation and they need it now. And I think like you were a good source for that. So definitely give you a follow on Instagram if you haven't already followed him. But yeah, definitely follow him on Instagram. And don't forget to be inspiring, stay motivated, and continue to push your limits.